Hello students, how are you? Hope this video will find you healthy and prosperous. This is Samreen Hashmi and the topic which we are going to discuss today is transport of food in plants. As we know that the main photosynthetic organs in plants are leaves. Leaves possess mesophyll cells which are responsible for photosynthesis as they contain chloroplasts, and photosynthesis is carried out in chloroplasts. As a result of photosynthesis, the organic food, that is mainly glucose, is synthesized or prepared. This food is utilized for respiration, and the excess of glucose is transported in the form of sucrose. Sucrose is a disaccharide that is composed of two monosaccharide subunits that are glucose and fructose. So, leaf prepares food in the form of glucose, and the excessive glucose is transported in the form of sucrose, that is disaccharide, the whole body of the plant. As we know that the phloem tissue is responsible for the transport of food from leaves to all parts of the plant. So transport of food in plants has been studied many years, and the result of these studies is pressure flow mechanism. Or it can also be called as mass flow hypothesis. According to this hypothesis or mechanism, the food is transported from source to sink. So in order to understand this hypothesis or this mechanism, it's necessary to understand certain terms that are source, sink and storage organ. So let me start with the source. So source is that specific organ where photosynthesis takes place, or that is the exporting organ from which the food can be transported to the other parts. Source can be a mature leaf, as photosynthesis is carried out in leaves. As we know that the main photosynthetic organ is the leaf. Source can be a mature leaf or it can be a storage organ. Sink. A sink is the organ or place of high metabolic activities. It can be root, tuber, growing stems, leaves, developing fruits or any growing region. A storage organ is a specific part or organ that is capable of storing food and exporting it to different parts when this food is required. It means that a storage organ can act both as sink and source. The example of storage organ or root of beet that acts as a sink in one season, and in the second growing season it acts as a source. It's capable of transporting the stored sugar to the developing shoots. So let me discuss the pressure flow mechanism through the diagram. As we know that the main photosynthetic organ or the source here is the leaf, as photosynthesis takes place in leaves and food is prepared here. So food is prepared in the form of mainly in the form of glucose that is utilized for respiration, and the excessive glucose is converted to sucrose, a disaccharide, and then from leaf or photosynthetic organ or source, the food in the form of sucrose is carried in the phloem tissue to the other parts of. Now here leaf is the source which is providing the food or glucose, and the sink is the root of beet. As the food in the form of sucrose is carried out from the leaf to the root of beet. So root of beet is here a sink. Now according to pressure flow mechanism, the sucrose here enters into the phloem tissue. Sucrose here, the food in the form of sucrose enters into the sieve tube of the phloem tissue like this. These are sucrose molecules. Now the solute concentration in the sieve tube is increased, as a result of which the water molecules from the xylem tissue enter into the phloem tissue through osmosis. The loading of food in the form of sucrose here is carried out by the active transport. Through active transport, this sucrose enters, the molecules enter into the sieve tube of phloem tissue. Now when water enters into the sieve tube through osmosis, the water pressure increases in the sieve tube, as a result of which the food is carried to the sink. Now the food here, I have already discussed that food is in the form of sucrose. Now here at the sink, the food is unloaded from the sieve tube of phloem tissue. This unloading of the food is carried out by the active transport. Food is carried to the sink, or when it is unloaded to the sink, water also leaves the sieve tube, as a result of which the water pressure decreases at the sink, as a result of which a massive flow of food is carried out from the source towards the sink. So this is the pressure flow mechanism or mass flow mechanism or hypothesis, according to which the food is carried out from the source towards the sink. Another important point here is that the transport of water is carried out in the, as we know that xylem tissue is responsible for the transport of water. So transport of water is carried out from the roots towards the leaves. This transport is carried out against gravity only in one direction, from root towards the leaves. Transport in phloem is a two-way street in which the food is transported between source and sink and depends upon the supply and demand of the sink and source. As I have already discussed that in first growing season, the root of beet acts as a sink. It stores food that is carried out from the source. And in the next growing season, it acts as a source as it supplies food that is present in the form of sugars to the developing shoots or developing plant. So a storage organ can act both as a source and sink. So which force is responsible for the pressure flow mechanism? So answer of this question is the drop in the water pressure during the unloading of food here at sink. When water pressure decreases here at the sink, a massive flow of food is carried out, or that can be called as phloem sap, from source towards the sink. So in this way, transport of food is carried out in plants. So these were certain points regarding the transport of food in plants. Please like and subscribe the video. Thank you so much.